My Lords, like others, I want to thank the whips for intervening in relation to protecting children from hearing details that were not appropriate for the young. I have to say that I was quite relieved because I myself was rather squirming. Over the last 2 days of committee, I think I've been exposed to more violent pornographic imagery than any adult, never mind child, should be exposed to. And I think that we can recognise that this is certainly a challenging time for us. I don't want any of the comments I make now to be seen as minimising understanding the ways that augmented reality, AI, the metaverse and so on, as detailed so vividly by the Noble Baroness Harding and Baroness Finlay in relation to child safety. However, I have got some concerns about this group of amendment in terms of proportionality and unintended outcomes. If we look at Amendment 239 in the names of the Lord Bishop of Oxford, Lord Clement Jones and Viscount Colville of Culross, then it sums up some of my concerns in terms of a focus on future-proofing. This amendment requires Ofcom to produce reports about future risks. And that sounds like a common-sense demand. But my question is that we overly focus on risk and never on opportunities. I think there's a danger that this bill will end up recommending that we only see these new technologies in a negative way, and that also that we actually are giving more powers to expanding the scope for harmful content in a way that stifles speech. I'm worried more generally beyond this bill about what looks to be coming a moral panic about AI. There's an adoption of the precautionary principle, and that could mean stifling innovation at source and preventing the development of great technologies that could be of huge benefit to humanity. The overfocus on the dangers of AI and augmented reality could mean that we ignore the potential large benefits. Everyone, for example, if we have AI, everyone could potentially have an immediately responsive GP in their pocket, and goodness knows if you've tried to get an appointment, that could be a great use and benefit. It can mean that students have an expert tutor in every subject, just one message away. And we've heard already from the Noble Baroness, Baroness Finlay, about the fantastic medical breakthroughs that augmented reality can bring in terms of handling neurological damage. And last night I was cheering when I saw the way that somebody who's never been able to walk is now able to walk through those kind of technologies. And I thought, isn't this a brilliant thing? So I know that we've got to be careful, that's all I'm suggesting, that we don't only see these new technologies as tools for the most perverted form of activity amongst a small minority of individuals. I also note with some irony that there was less qualms expressed by my noble lords about the use of AI when it was being proposed to scan and detect speech or images in encrypted messages, which, as I argued at the time, would be a threat to WhatsApp, to Signal and so on. So Clause 110 and 124 has us using AI as a blunt proactive technology of surveillance, despite the high risks of inaccuracy, error, false flags. But there was great enthusiasm for AI then, when it was having an impact on individuals' freedom of expression. And yet here, all we're hearing is the negative. So I just think we need to be balanced. I'm also concerned about Amendment 125, which I think illustrates the problem of only seeing innovation as a threat to safety and as a potential problem. For example, if the bill considers AI-generated content to be user-generated content, then only large technology companies will have the resources to proceed, in terms of lawyers and engineers, with all that will be necessary to avoid crippling liability. Also, in practice, UK users risk being blocked out from new technologies if we're not careful here in terms of how we regulate. So, for example, members of the EU, users in the European Union, currently cannot access Google Bard AI Assistant because of GDPR regulations. And that would be a great loss because Google Bard AI is potentially a great gain. Despite the challenges of the likes of ChatGPT and Bard AI that we keep reading about, and people panicking that this will mean that this will lead to wide-scale cheating in education and so on, I also think, as I say, that it has huge potential as a beneficial technology. I've mentioned before that one of the unintended consequences, and it would be unintended, of this whole bill would be that the UK becomes a hostile environment for digital investment and innovations. So investments in startups like DeepMind or Google-owned UK-based AI company could be forced to leave the UK and could do a huge damage to UK's digital sector. How can the UK be a science and technology superpower if we end up endorsing anti-innovation, anti-progress, anti-business measures by being overly risk-averse? This also concerns me about Amendment 286 that requires periodic reviews of new technology content environments such as the metaverse under the virtual augmented reality settings. I just worry that it will not be attractive for technology companies to confidently invest in new technologies if there is this constant threat of new regulations and new problems on the horizon. But also I've got a query, mainly relating to Amendment 125, but more generally. If virtual augmented reality actually involves user-to-user interaction, like the metaverse, isn't it already covered in the bill? Why do we need to add that in? Baroness Harding said in this debate that it has got to the point where we are not able to distinguish fake from real, augmented reality from reality, but then concludes that that means that we should treat fake as real, which does seem to me to rather muddy the waters and make it a fait accompli. I personally... I'm sorry.
I'd just like to clarify. I think